Yeah, today's anger brought to you by stupid gas hoarders.
Yeah, that is. I saw some of those pictures, and I'm just like, really, guys? It'll be fixed in a day or two. That's what they said. It's
Well,
just,
now it won't
well, yeah,
because they have to
because
refill all the places that got emptied out, so it ends up affecting a whole lot
cause
more people.
yeah, because now they've been stupid. Yeah, I'm just like, yeah,
Yeah, I got to see it in person. Fletcher had school today, and I just waited and was getting gas because I only have to go to Mooresville on Tuesday and Friday for him to go to
right,
school, and I use Get Upside, so I
right.
get cash back. And there's a station near the school that is one of the stations you can use. So I was just getting it there after I dropped him off, and there's usually no one there. And I mean, there weren't lines yet. It was still early in the morning, but there were every pump was full, and there was a truck there with a bunch of gas cans, and one pump was empty. I'm like, come on. But by the time I picked him up this afternoon, lines or closed because empty everywhere I passed.
Ridiculous. I don't understand. Luckily I don't have to drive that far or that drive that much right now. So, I don't have to fill up for a while.
Hmm.
So I'm fine on that front, but I'm just,
So are you plugged hardwired into your internet, or are you using
I'm
Wi-Fi?
hardwired. Yeah, I'm hardwired.
Okay.
It's just this laptop is shit.
Okay, yeah, it could be at this point. Although it's
It's just,
just voice, it shouldn't be that rough. The
yeah,
processor being that old.
I just need to somehow scrounge up some money and get a new laptop at this point
Yeah.
and just use it for just this and nothing else.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they can do a
I'm pretty
lot
sure
now.
if we did this with like if I got it got I'm pretty sure this would sound without at least somewhat better if I used the iPad at this point.
Probably.
Uh,
Oh
all
yeah,
right,
that's a much newer processor. That could probably work.
yeah, we'll try that next week.
And then you could just like
I
have your notes right there on the laptop.
Yeah, I just don't have earpods for the iPad. That's the only thing.
Ah, right. Because no plugs.
No plugs, but yeah, it's got this
They
brand new
have
fancy mic.
wireless earbuds like, AirPod friendly type things. I got at TJ Maxx for Fletcher for like $15.
Yeah, yeah. I'll have to look into that and stuff and
Because I know the real ones
everything
are
else.
they're good, but they're expensive.
Yeah, yeah.
Why
And
doesn't it look like we're live? Oh, because I'm not at our channel. There we are. Okay, I'm ready. You ready?
all right, go right ahead and start.
Devil is amongst us. Stay back, boy. This calls for divine intervention. I kick ass for the Lord.
Beware of false prophets, which come in to you in sheep's clothing, but out inwardly are ravenous wolves. Wherever their fruits, you'll know them by. Matthew 15 and 20.
I am a conservative Republican, but I believe in democracy and the separation of church and state. The conservative movement is founded on the simple tenet that people have the right to live life as they please as long as they don't hurt anyone else in that process. Barry Goldwater. Let's talk about the radicalization of American discourse.
Welcome to Heresy and welcome to Heresy and Hearsay, uh, a podcast reclaiming faith through political discourse. My name is Reverend Barney, and you can follow me on on Twitter at Seth Roth II. You can also follow the show on just look for Heresy and Hearsay. Heresy and Hearsay has a Patreon site where you can just find us at patreon.com/heresy and hearsay, where you can visit to help us just $2 a day. that helps this show, helps this humble show. And my co-host today is September.
Hi, I'm September, or 9 of 12. You can follow me on Twitch and Twitter at 9 of 12. I'm also co host of the Geek Grills podcast. Welcome to our Twitch channel where you contribute with bits or subscribe for free if you have Amazon Prime. You can also follow the show on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and any podcast catcher. Just look for Heresy and Hearsay. Please like, share, follow, subscribe. Also, give us a review. That helps others find us. We also have a website. You can listen to all of our past shows and find bios about each of us there at heresyandhearsay.com.
So before we get into today's show, this was something that we had talked about doing on our last show. So let's do this. Now, I haven't come up with a name for this yet, but right now let's do our mental health check-in. So we'll start September. What have you been doing to, keep yourself mentally healthy and everything?
Well, trying to, in my personal life, I've got some communication issues going on, and just trying to solve those in a nonviolent communication manner, reminding myself to, be careful how I speak. So that's been my challenge recently, but I'm having some pretty great mental health stuff. I had a really good Mother's Day, and that might be surprising to some people who know me because this is the first Mother Day since my mother and I are like estranged. She blocked me last year on Facebook, and I it's good to have that. It's one less worry. We had a very toxic relationship, and no drama ensued. She didn't try to reach out to me, or I'm sure she's, talking to my sister about it, but we're just not going there. And I've been started to track my diet again using my Fitness Pal, so that's good. It's all I need is just remind myself, okay, what did I eat today? And when I write it down, I do better and I feel better when I eat better. And it encourages me to go exercise, which is also incredibly good for my mental health. It's hard to get myself to go when I'm out of practice like I have been. But, once I go, I feel so much more mentally stable. The fresh air and then all the brain chemicals you get from doing some activity. And when I'm tracking, my watch puts those calories in the app so I can have a little treat. So, all of those things have been good self-care steps for my mental health. The only really bad turn was my 25-year-old son. I haven't heard from him in 4 months. So I'm really worried and I'm stressed out and I want to go try and find him, but now people are being gas hoarders, so I can't just drive to Raleigh right now. And I'm a little worried because I'm a lot worried. It's not unlike him to fall out of touch, but to just not even say Happy Mother's Day, it hurts some. And I'm just kind of powering through, trying to be rational. He's grown.
Yeah,
How about
I know.
you?
We've had this happen to you a couple of times where you've had to actually had to go and track him down and hey, it would be nice if you let us know you're okay. That's all we're asking.
Yeah.
And I know you've moved out and everything, and I get that. I get that as a reverse of that. My parents were like, we know you've moved out and everything, have your own life. Just once a week, drop us a line and say you're alive. That's all we're asking.
Yeah.
And so, and I get that feeling, and I hope that resolves quickly because I know how you've had that concern in the past. So
Yeah. But I did not let it ruin my Mother's Day.
yeah, which I'm good. That's good.
Yeah.
It's because normally, from past experiences, things have worked out. So at least there's that. So,
Hmm.
so for me, I've just been, I finally got my second shot. It'll be 2 weeks tomorrow. So I've been actually planning on, actually being able to go and do things. There are other people in my life that have gotten their second shot and stuff. So we're actually planning on possibly doing some meeting up and doing D&D in person and stuff like that. And it's like I've got over this lockdown and stuff, I've been like, slowly building up a D&D library and stuff like that, a book at a time or something like that. And I'm like been working on, a homebrew world and stuff like that. So I've been kind of patchworking that all together. I do a little bit here and a little bit there, and I'm like trying to put that all together so that when everybody's got their second shots and everything else, that's what I've been working on is so that we can like get together and be like, hey, we can have D&D again and be like in person. And I know a lot of people will be happy about that. A lot of the geeks and stuff. You see a lot of these streamers and stuff that have having to do streamers where they're no longer in the same room, and I'm sure they're all going to be glad to be able to be next to each other and be able to do stuff. It's like, one of the most popular shows, Critical Role. They can't even do that right now. They're all in like they're in the same room, but they're like separated and everything else, and they don't even they're still doing social distancing and stuff like that. Just for though they're probably very safe, they're also making sure that they're being a good steward for and saying, hey, this is what we're doing to protect ourselves and stuff like that, and everything else, so that they're a good role model for those people who are watching them. So I'm sure that they will be glad to when they've gotten their shots and everything, that they can all get back to a normal setting and everything else as well. So, I'm just looking forward to being able to like get in a group of people and throw some dice. And I'm looking so forward to that. And it's just like it's been so long. It's been so long since I've seen people say, and roll initiative. Like in person with people. It's just it'll be great. So that is what I've been doing. And there you go. So now we get to jump into what has been going on. So I want to start with this. So let me pull this up. Give me 1 second here, because of course it's going to be slow. Why are you being slow today? All right. So do you have the article up? Because for some reason, why is it being slow? Okay, here it is. I got it.
Okay.
Um, I've got it. So Edgar Welsh, a 28-year-old father of two in Salisbury, recently read online that Comet Ping Pong, a pizza restaurant in Northwest Washington, was harboring young children as sex slaves as part of a child abuse ring led by Hillary Clinton. These articles making these allegations were widespread across the web, appearing in sites including Facebook and Twitter. According to his concern, apparently his concern, Mr. Welsh drove about 6 hours on a Sunday from his home to Comet Ping Pong to see the situation himself, according to the court documents. Not long after arriving at the pizzeria, police said he fired from his assault-like rifle, an AR-15. They found a rifle and a handgun in the restaurant. No one was hurt. None of this was true. He had read this all online.
And to clarify, this is an article from 2016.
Right. This is from 2016.
Okay.
I wanted to bring this because this is one of those. Fa- this is one of those famous stories that came up about someone reading something online and believing it so completely that in his heart he thought he was going to do something to help these kids, and in turn there was nothing to this was just a hoax. This was, but he thought, he was in his heart, he was going to do something to help somebody, to help children. There's no basement and ping pong pizzeria, comic pizzeria. And but this man had no real malice in his life, or in this situation. He was driving to help children, and this is what happened. He got so sucked into this conspiracy theory about this pizzeria that he felt, why aren't some, if it's right there and everybody knows it, why doesn't somebody just go in? Well, it's 6 hours away, I'll drive and do it myself. And he went and he did it himself, and there was nothing there, and he was arrested and spending jail time away from his own children because of conspiracy theory. And this is not the first incident of this kind of situation, and this is not the last incident of this situation, but this is one that was kind of started shaking some trees. Started, waking people up that this is out there and this has gotten bad. And so,
I don't know that it's gotten any better, that people have
no, it
woken up to
hasn't.
this. I mean, Pizzagate was that long ago now, like 4 years ago, and these tactics are still being used, and how
Mm-hmm.
that got so out of hand. I mean, it was these people that are doing that democratic pedophile stuff, and well, these people ate at that restaurant, so it must be where the ring is, and it spread to accusing other businesses, and then some YouTuber guy went and was, I'm gonna check it out, and like talked like he was debunking, but then he went in there, and I mean, I don't know if you've seen that video, but the guy was like,
No.
I don't know, this is kind of weird. This is, I mean, isn't that kind of weird about every little thing, and it like ramps up despite the facts that there being absolutely nothing going on at this place. Um, and then when Pizzagate happened, when this guy went and was shooting, they obviously then the police are checking everything out and they investigated and there's proof that there's nothing. Then it's that, oh, it's a false flag and he's a crisis actor just to distract us from it happening. Like, you cannot even persuade people away from facts when they have bought into this cult like conspiratorial way of thinking. It actually
Right.
ends up reinforcing, like, proof that it's not true reinforces that belief, because it's not truth, it's belief. This is the real dangerous fake news
Yes.
that's out there. And you know I mean, that led to an attempted insurrection.
Right. That, and no matter what you do, no, and we're still feeling that the repercussions of that right now with what's going on in Congress with the Republican Party right now. I think they were going to do that vote either today or tomorrow. I think it was about Liz Cheney, about removing her from the leadership, if I remember correctly.
Mm.
Um, that, she was speaking out and basically saying, this is the truth. There was no election fraud. There was no scam. There was no big lie. This is a big
Mm-hmm.
lie. There was no hanky panky going on. All of these states ran both statewide and independent audits on these elections. It's like that, and we'll get to that in a second. But they're on all of their elections multiple times, there was nothing in any of this. Trump lost, and because Liz Cheney is speaking facts, they're going to remove the Republican Party in the House wants to remove, or a lot of the members want to remove her from leadership role and put someone in who believes the big lie in her place. And I'm just,
Our
you
government
know,
is not supposed to be run on faith. Like, that's not how this works.
no, it's like,
I mean, it's one thing to
it's
want someone
hard.
to toe the party line when it's based on your platform, because that's something that you've all agreed upon.
Right.
Wanting them to toe the party line based on untruths is dangerous and madness.
Well, it's also hard to work with a two-party system when one of the party is a complete conspiracy theorist party, and you're trying to run a nation, and and one of the party, and a lot of it's, I don't want to say it's completely the House. There's a large contingency in the House, but the Senate isn't much better when you've got people like Ted Cruz and Josh Hawley and Paul Ryan, not Paul Ryan. I'm sorry, that's a name from the past. Paul, Rand Paul. That's who I was thinking of, and Lindsey Graham in there, who maybe not are speaking that, but they are not exactly helping curb
Right.
it either, because they are still kissing the ring of Donald Trump as well. I mean, I saw a sign. I was driving home from therapy today, which, by the way, is also a good thing to do for your mental health. I was driving home from therapy today, and I saw a sign today that said, you know, um, uh, Trump 2024, we will, and it was like in bold print, we will make America great again. And I'm like, he's not even going to run in 2024. And I'm just like, and that is a threat. And I'm like, and I don't like that threat very much. Thank you very much.
Actually, I wanted to mention this to you today, and it actually brings it into our format
Yeah.
as well as being topical to this crazy, like, false narrative that so many people have fallen into, and you can't talk reason. I have a whole another thing going on where someone was screaming at me and calling me a Marxist the other day, but um, there's a sign, handmade, painted on wood in Troutman that I drive by sometimes, bringing my son from school, and it says 1/6/21, Socialist America, Luke 3:13.
Hold on. I'm going to look at my...
Which is, don't collect any more than you are required to.
What was that, Luke?
3:13. I believe it's Jesus talking to the tax collectors, like telling them not to collect more than is appointed for you. Um,
There it is.
But somehow this person believes that fits in with how not succeeding in the insurrection means that we're all socialists now, or are on socialist rule. And yeah, that's it. It's an incredibly twisted narrative, and someone's like right there using the Bible to justify this newspeak think, and they believe so strongly about it they got this handmade sign.
Yeah, so for the context of that, because here's the thing. People, and this is what drives me insane as a theologian and everything else, is that people take a verse out of context, and context is so key. So basically, Jesus is baptizing people, and is like when the tax collector came to be baptized,
You and John?
teacher, they asked, "What should we do? Do not collect any more than is required to." He told them. 14, he says, then some soldiers asked him, "What should we do?" He replied, "Do not extort money and do not accuse people falsely. Be content with your pay." So basically, he was just like, telling them, do your job, but, don't do any more than you have to. You know, do what you're supposed to for the government. Basically, what he was saying, what Jesus was saying is like, it's okay that you still have a government job
Actually, it's
with the
John,
Roman.
apparently. Sorry, I
Huh?
just caught that.
Go
It's
ahead.
John. It's John the
Oh, it's
Baptist, not Jesus being quoted in
Yeah,
the
I'm
story.
sorry. It's
It's
John the
yeah.
Baptist. Yeah, correct. Right. But basically, it's John. You're correct. I apologize. It's John the Baptist saying that yes, it's you still have a job with the Roman official, and that's okay. Just do your job and don't do more than your job. You still, it's okay to do your job as a Roman official, but you don't need to exploit that job, which was basically what John was saying. Which is true. It's perfectly fine.
So I
Do
should
your
make
job.
a flyer that says like Luke 3:14 and drop it in his mailbox or tape
Yes, you
it to
should.
his
Yeah,
sign,
yeah,
right? Like
yeah,
don't falsely accuse people and
yeah.
be content with your wages, dude. I mean, it's just insane. It's such a weirdly out of context and yeah, but out there for the world to see, super important.
And that's just and that is one of the and that was the whole thing about that was one of the things is that QAnon thing, the QAnon and all that um has been in the zeitgeist since 2018. There's been this big documentary about it and everything else about who is Q and all of this kind of stuff, and how people got sucked into it and everything else. And one of the things that I found that the documentary was fascinating in its own right. I kept coming back to the fact in my own studies and everything of how
Sorry.
how vi- it's okay, how very it's almost intrinsically common for people of faith, like it's almost like it's people of faith have a built-in a gene. I don't know how to describe it, but there is like this, it's not a too far of a leap for them to then be taken to conspiracy theories or to be led down a line like this if someone takes that hand and can use it in the proper way. If you listen to people like Marjorie Taylor Greene, or those individuals who were voted in this last time, who claim to be Christians and everything else, who are huge Q supporters and stuff like that, or if you listen to a lot of them are religious people. But what happens is that there is just enough religious speak in these words, like believe in the plan, believe in the truth of Jesus, believe in the plan of Q, stuff like that. There's just enough religious language in there that it triggers that same kind of thing in your head. And if you've already been in a religious
If you're
situation,
indoctrinated, you're
yeah,
used to
there
that
are
kind
there
of
are a pre
language. It's a pattern of language that is
Mhm.
very well used by these people who want to manipulate the public for their benefit, and they know. I mean, there's entire books about it, and the Republican Party in particular has mastered this, where you use a certain type of language that people are used to responding to in a certain way, repetition of phrases. I mean, if you've ever been to church, there's formats to the way things are built that when you're indoctrinated, you are then psychologically subject to when someone speaks to you that way, responding in a docile and a faithful manner.
Right. And I'm never going to say that this started in our generation, because there's been a lot of this throughout. But I can say, and you can probably, and you remember this too, you remember the moral majority and how influential and how big of an influence it was in the Reagan America, and how powerful it was, and what it did for Reagan's
Mm-hmm.
elections, and what it did as far as that zeitgeist and everything else was the moral majority. But that was like one of the big first, like, as far as I can remember. And I'm sure there were other movements prior to that, but it was like this. But it was when TV was also very prominent, you know, and showing, these individuals with, it was Jerry Falwell and all of this, and you had, the religious and the right very coupled together at that point, and it was the moral majority, and that moral majority really helped get Reagan elected in 80 as part of it, and kept him in office in 84. um, and I think that's where that kind of turn came, as far as what I can, see in that system, is that's where a lot of this linking of the two really started to become one, was at that point, was the moral majority.
I could see where, yeah, the zeitgeist being about being the moral majority and being morally right, not just politically right, infecting our politics in such a hard way. Like, I believe that definitely could be seen as a significant sort of this particular movement. And of course, it was accelerated when with the internet and the 24-hour news cycles began, and then there became a race to release stories rather than verifying them. And then, of course, the internet and social media are, again, accelerations where it's easier to
Right.
use these tactics that fall into that zeitgeist. And it fits very well with, I mean, what we're trying to talk about is how the discourse became so radicalized and creating that atmosphere where it's a moral right and wrong. It's not a matter of politics, but it's a matter of principle. And people truly believing that they're right, and questioning what they believe, or who they believe when they're saying something that's a lie, becomes, they get morally outraged, and they think that you're attacking their core faith and their values and their principles, when really you're just saying, no, that thing Donald Trump said was actually untrue.
Mm-hmm.
But they can't separate the two anymore because of this inundation of that zeitgeist that began with the moral majority.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why our political discourse has just become, or one of the reasons it's become untenable in some circumstances. Like I referred to earlier, there's a DEI initiative at my child's school, and people went to this Learning for Justice site and saw that it was associated with Southern Poverty Law Center and some other groups that support it. But out of context there, it just became this raging, because, I mean, it's a lot of rich white people at this school, it just is. And that's part of why the school is very set on having a diversity initiative before sending these kids out into the world where they're going to encounter more diversity. But the parents are saying, it's a bunch of Marxists that want to teach our children white guilt. And that's nuts. Um, it's not in the mission. Everything in this program fits with the respect, dignity, all the mission, of the
Mm-hmm.
school. And it's just trying to, and it's students coming in and like talking with other students when they're reading certain materials to make sure that it's historically accurate and diverse on some lessons. Like, that's what it is. It's a club for the upper
Right.
school, and these parents are losing their minds and like gonna pull their kids out of school and talking about how equity is just part of a Marxist socialist agenda, and I just and I tried to talk and engage these people in a nonviolent manner, like, everybody take a breath. We're just trying to teach inclusiveness. This is a social thing. No one's trying to take your stuff and give it to other people. And I posted 2 sentences on this forum, and this woman posted pages in response to, in order to express to, it was a lot of words to say she didn't care about what I said. Um, and I resisted pointing it out to her because there's no point. This is, the administration can deal with people that are going to be that unreasonable. But she accused me of gaslighting, name calling. Like, it was almost worse because she didn't have a bunch of misspellings and bad grammar. So I know she's
you almost hope for that.
right, because then it's like, okay, I can see where she. No, she just really, really believes she's right and upright and moral, and no matter how off base and she was also throwing out gaslighting. I noticed, like, every response to everybody, so I don't think that means what she thinks it means. Yeah, well, I mean, it doesn't. She was just using it completely wrong. Like, she accused me of name calling, and I was the one being called names, and of bullying. I had 2 sentences asking everyone to calm down. So yeah, the discourse is untenable in some places, and even in a small community. But it's because of this really feeling like, if you're discussing a topic and you disagree, as if it's attacking your core principles. I mean, people in this thread were screaming that the teachers were teaching about voting and they should be staying out of politics. And I said, well, wait, because teaching about voting isn't politics, that's civics. Like, we have a social studies curriculum in the state, and that's where, there are certain things they're supposed to learn about. You can go look, at the links that the principal just sent out. And what I got from other parents was laughing reacts. And that's terrifying.
Part and that I'm going to say this with all honesty. The left has the left right. We have been tribalized in some respects. There has been some, and I've noticed that in myself. And I'll be the this I'm using me. We have been tribalized and we have been put in camps. And I can be very bad about that in some respects. This is why I don't engage in a lot of political discourse online, because I know that when I do engage in political discourse, it's normally when I'm trying to discuss something with someone of my own side, and I'm trying to correct a misnomer that they have gone too far. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. And I have also been called out on my own mistakes. My brother called me out because I was making fun of Meghan McCain's hair, and it's like, you don't need to be doing that. Because if someone was doing that on the other side, you would be losing your shit. And I'd be like, you're absolutely right.
He was right.
I shouldn't do that.
He was really wrong about chicken cacciatore, but he was right about that.
I have no, look, I don't know what.
I'll explain it later.
I'm not getting into that discussion. I was like, I don't know what you two are talking about. This is too. That is a whole other discussion on our Facebook. I was just talking about chicken casserole, and you guys and those two, September and my brother went off on a whole different topic. I was just talking about chicken casserole. What is this you're talking about? It's like. But anyways, getting back on topic, but no, it's like, he was right about, it's like you're right. Even though Meghan McCain continually comes on The View and pushes the envelope of me having to bite my lip and tongue about her hair, I will never, ever again make fun of her hair. I'll only make fun of what she says because that's what's important. But no, but we have been radicalized. That's why when one of the articles that will be in our show notes, it does state that there are left radicalizations, but it is disproportionate to right wing radicalizations. It's the one from, I think it's, it's the domestic terrorism from the Washington Post, where it gives the graphs and everything, and it breaks it down. It's a very good article and everything else. But one of the things that is that a friend of mine told me this years ago, and he's a bit more right wing, but he's a friend of mine and everything else, and he's like, the difference between the left and the right is the right believes, and the left believes in something, the right has faith in something. And I'm like, well, that's a problem, because I'm talking about facts. And so, when Ben Shapiro says facts don't care about your feelings, but the thing is that they're not talking about facts. They never are. So, or I can't say that, but whenever that statement comes up, and it is, that's a Ben Shapiro statement, your facts don't care about your feelings. That's great, Ben, but Ben, your side is battling me with faith, not facts, most of the time. I'm giving you facts that, our vaccine is not going to have horns grow out of your head or is going to microchip you. Why is your side not getting the vaccine? And that's the problem. It's like, that is one of those things that's been radicalized, is a simple vaccine. Could you imagine what have happened in the 50s if this kind of discourse would happen with polio?
Yeah, and this is incredibly relevant to what we're trying to explain. Like, embracing conspiracy theories is a very, very dangerous way to radicalize people. This is how countries do get overthrown. And in the cases with the vaccine and the stretches they go to, it makes people somehow feel smarter to believe in a conspiracy instead of using Occam's razor. And we're endangering lives in so many different ways at this point, right down to, from vaccines to people arming themselves, to the gas thing going on right now. Right before we came online, there was a local moms group, and somebody's like, how do all you Biden voters feel now? There's something big coming and they just want us scared, and that's why there's this gas hack. I mean,
No,
she just went there. I'm like, holy crap! There's plenty of information about there what's going on, and not only are people panicking and acting irrationally and fighting about it already, it's apparently some conspiracy that Joe Biden is doing. I don't even know. This kind of person is so used to thinking this way at that point, so tribalized, that anything bad that happens has to be a conspiracy by the other side. That kind of paranoid, conspiracy believing radicalization is dangerous for the entire society.
It's true. Yeah, I agree.
These brainwashing tactics are used on purpose by some leadership, and we have to be more careful about it. The whole Q thing. Did you watch that documentary?
I watched part of it, yes.
Everybody should watch this. I mean,
And
it's our entire country was manipulated from an outsider, like a guy just because it was a game and he could.
yeah, he just wanted to see if he could, and he did.
Mm-hmm. And it looks a lot like a lot of high-end people in our administration fed him whatever he needed to do it.
Mm-hmm.
But he used these cult radicalization and communication tactics very effectively using social media.
And then about after the election and everything, in Tulsa, Oklahoma, they did this health and something conference, and it had people like Mike Lindell and Lynn Wood. For those people who don't know who Lynn Wood is, he was the one of the people who he was Mike Flynn's. He was one of Mike Flynn's attorneys. He was also one of Trump's attorneys for a while. He is currently in trouble for voting in the Georgia elections, though he was in South Carolina. He was, he during for the senatorial elections, but he is a big Q conspiracy theory, and they did nothing but talk about Q on there and talk about more of this. Mike Lindell has put up, and I've watched these conspiracy theories. Mike Lindell put up this thing called Absolute Truth, which is about a conspiracy 2-hour video or so about the stealing of the election, which was absolutely nothing. There is no evidence whatsoever of this theft. Basically, someone is taking him for a ride, and he is currently on the ball by Dominion for $1.3 billion, for his for him blaming Dominion and basically making it where Dominion can't get their machines into any elections now, because they're just election people are like, I know your stuff's good, but if people find out we're using Dominion at this point, they will lose their minds. And it's like, yeah, it's true, and everything else. And I'm just like, it's ridiculous that we're to this point where a name of a company would cause some people that are voters to lose their minds because they think that they're stealing the elections, which is not the case.
And that's another key factor in this. People aren't the newspeak and the very effective, everything's like coded and secret, that developing it as a faith instead of your own fact checking or fact finding. People are so, like, they know that name, they've never done a lick of research, but it comes from a source that they have faith in, and therefore it's truth. And they never extrapolate anything. It completely short circuits critical thinking.
Right.
And it's on purpose.
I look at what's going on in there. Sorry.
I gave homework last week for those of us on the left, and it's a really interesting read. It's not very long, by George Lakoff. And I think it's just had its 10th anniversary or something, but it's called Don't Think of an Elephant. Mm-hmm. So this was written a while, in 2004 it was originally published, but it was given to me by a local activist. And there are decades of the moral majority, like you were talking about, their strategists on the conservative end of politics, they have a really good hold on political dialogue and turning words to mean in what they want to do, and then they create a syllogism where they say, okay, well, like healthcare is everyone having healthcare is socialism, and socialism is bad, so government healthcare is bad, or whatever, universal healthcare is bad. They just draw those conclusions for you in that bang 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 way, and people just believe it, and it changes the very definitions of words. Well, Don't Think of an Elephant is a really good counterpoint to understand and communicate effectively about social and political issues, to counter that kind of thinking and the stranglehold that the right has on political discourse. So I just want to put that recommendation out there for anyone who's still trying to reach across and talk to people with some sense. Like, it'll help you understand their language. It doesn't go into this whole other brainwashing stuff that's been going on, but it at least is a baseline of how they are using the language and how you can get around that.
And that's, I mean, we'll have to touch this topic again because it's such a huge topic, and it's just
Yeah, and I know you want to talk
mind-blowing.
about all these specific things going on, but for me, I am really intellectually nerded out about the actual psychological manipulation
Hmm.
situation. I find it
Right,
fascinating. Like, I studied, you know, anthropology for that kind of nerd.
right. No, and I get that. And like I said, this is as much as I wish this wasn't. This is a rich well of a topic. So this is we
Okay,
could
so
we
what did you
could
want to say
plumb.
about Arizona?
Yeah, it's because this is one of those things. It's like the Arizona Republicans basically hired this group that has never done a audit before, and one of the things they were interviewing one of those guys up there that is helping out. He doesn't believe in this stuff, but they were talking about how they were like checking for bamboo, strands, and seeing if there may have been some of the people that were down there checking this stuff was seeing if some of the that one of the conspiracy theories that they were checking out was is that a bunch of ballots were flown in from China, and they're checking for bamboo with a 5K camera and scanning it for that kind of stuff. And and there's just so much. They're not going to be finished until July. This was supposed to be like a weekend, and they have even and at this point it's going to be July, and the Justice Department is finally like, okay, look, because they were talking about going door to door with people and knocking on people's doors and saying, is this how you voted? And the Justice Department was like, no, you can't do that. That's a voter intimidation. And then the group is called Cyber Ninjas, and they put out another statement. It's like, well, if we may not go out, but if we do go out, we won't go out with guns. We won't go out with guns. It's like, what? You were going to go out armed? It's like, what the hell was you thinking? It's like, okay. No, yeah. So the Justice Department is probably going to have to step in at this point, and that's going to make it worse, because at that point it'd be like, see, Biden didn't want to find out the truth, so he had the Justice Department step in,
Yeah,
and that's the whole thing.
yeah,
And
that's that crazy
it's like the
validation.
Giuliani thing. Giuliani was raided last week with this stuff. The thing is that this investigation's been going on since 2019. When while Trump was in office, Trump had kept it from getting any further. But that's been it, But this has been going on since 2019. Nobody hears that part of the conversation. It's now that Biden's in office. Suddenly, it's all Biden doing this, and that's the situation. So it becomes another conspiracy. It just rolls over to another conspiracy. Though this has been going on since 2019. So it's one of those things where they don't. Someone told me once, and it was Hal Sparks, and I said this once in one of his vlogs, and I agree. Whenever you're reading an article, skip down to the third paragraph, because that's where the real news is. The first two paragraphs are supposed to be the shock, and then the third paragraph is when you get all the information. And I have found that to be extremely helpful in most of my reading since I've heard that. So that is something for our listeners today to help them, as far as to make sure that they're not being, because that helps, because we've made mistakes on this show. That's one, like that Newsweek thing. That's why we were like being extreme. That's why we called it out. It's like, and I've made a mistake. It's like that shooting in Ohio that happened with that young lady, young black lady. When it first came out, I was all over that on Twitter because I was getting the information that I was getting like everybody else was. It wasn't until I saw the cam stuff and everything else, I was like, oh, that's a little more problematic than what was first initially stated. Right after the original shooting. So,
Hmm.
I was, and so I have to be more careful. And I will be the first to admit I've made mistakes. And social media is a bad thing for that. And so, as I'm bringing this up because even we on this side of the aisle can make mistakes and can get suckered in, or can get the wrong amount of information and jump to a conclusion. And then that's where we go down a rabbit hole, and we need to be careful of that. So, we have to, that's one of the things we have to police ourselves too, or else, then we can go down a rabbit hole and make a mistake. But we will definitely touch on this topic and get more. I think this was like an introduction to this topic. I think we will definitely have to get more into the weeds of it, especially like the anthropology of it and everything else. I think that would definitely be something we can definitely do. Not next week. No, I can't do this 2 weeks in a row. It'll kill me. Next week, we're going to do something much lighter. We're going to talk about the good and the bad of the infrastructure plan, because I think that'll be something that September can get her teeth into, because she likes to talk about wonky stuff.
Yeah.
So I think that's what we're going to do next week, because I need a palate cleanser. Because we've been talking about some heavy subjects, and I'd like to talk about something nice and something that is positive for this nation. And I think it'll pass, because it's been said that it'll go through reconciliation. So it shouldn't be a problem in the past, as long as everything goes through. But we can definitely discuss that next week. So between now and then, brother, do you have anything else you want to add before we go
Nope.
on to Carrot and Stick?
I'm good.
Okay. Then, Brother Bowie, before we get to Carrot and Stick, do you mind leading us in a word of prayer?
Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us of trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. Lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen.
All right, so I didn't do 2 sticks because I didn't do it. Oh, I did no sticks this week because we've already talked about enough bad stuff. I figured we'd have 2 carrots instead. So, do you want to go over the first carrot or the second carrot?
I'll do the first one, I guess.
Okay.
Okay, so yeah, this is really excited. This just happened today. The FDA is authorized. It did authorize. This article says it's set to. I know it. This came through. The FDA authorized the Pfizer biotech vaccine for the 12 to 15-year-olds. Is a done deal. So I'm excited about that. I think it's 1 in 5 cases right now are kids that age, and so this opens up to millions. Of young adults, children, and yeah, especially as we have them going back to school. Like my son, thankfully he was able to, because he's 16, he was able to get the Pfizer already, but like this is another 4 years. Not like now my niece can go get it, and with them making him go back to school in person. I am really excited about this halting more spread that is happening with the reopening.
Right, and also I know that Pfizer has already put in for younger than the 12. I think I think they're doing. I think it's 8 to 12 at this point. They are already in trials for that one, and putting in to get that one approved as well. So hopefully I think they want to say by Christmas that one may be approved as well. So we're definitely chugging along with these new ways that they're getting vaccines and everything. That I think we're definitely doing that. And I want to say this too, with these vaccines and everything, real quick, that they have found that with the way that these vaccines have helped, that they may actually be able to come up with an HIV vaccine, because of how they've been able to do this much more micro targeting of the vaccines, that they think that this may actually work for an actual vaccine for a HIV vaccine, and they're currently in human trials right now for an HIV vaccine right now. So that is quite excellent. And speaking of people going to school, right now until 2022. The FDA has approved basically that there will be free lunches for all the students until 2022 at this point as well. So they're definitely trying to make sure that when the kids go back to school and everything else, that the kids will at least have one good meal a day. Well, they may not enjoy the meal, but it'll at least be one healthy meal a day.
And you said
The
FDA, but that's in fact USDA, which most
sorry,
people
US.
don't
Yes, sorry,
realize.
sorry.
USDA handles
The
food stamps and
USDA,
school
yeah,
lunch
but they
programs.
basically approve that if the kids are in a public school, that they'll have at least one. They'll have one healthy meal a day. While they're in school, it's free. They won't have to pay for it. I don't know if they're going to expand that to breakfast as well. I hope they do. But I know they're at least going to have free lunches until 2022 to the end of school 2022. So that will be good. So that means next school year, when next school year starts and everybody's back in school, they'll have free lunches. There'll be no charges for that. And I know that was something I discussed, I think, while you were working, is that for a while there was like kids that had like these huge lunch bills and everything else, and people were having to pay off lunch bills because they couldn't buy lunch. So I'm glad that they're doing that for that. So that's going to do it for this week's show. Like I said, next week we'll talk about the infrastructure bill. We'll get into the weeds about that and look at that, because I know there's been a lot of people complaining that it's not enough infrastructure because they don't understand what infrastructure is, and we'll break that down for you guys and go over all of that with you, and how that will be effective as far as on both a faith-based, why it's important to look at that as well. So I want to thank you again for joining us at Heresy and Hearsay. I'm Raymond Barney, and you can follow me on Twitter at SethRothII. You can follow the show on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, podcast catcher, as well as our website. Don't just Google us. Don't forget our Patreon. We're just $2 a month. We'll keep this show going.
And I'm September. You can follow me on Twitch and Twitter at 9 of 12. And you can hear me on the Geek Girls podcast. Thanks for listening today, and bless your hearts.
Diamond Club hopes you have enjoyed this program.
Hey. So do we want... Where the flap is Streamlabs? Oh, it's over there. And the recording. I guess I'll end the stream.